agree that it should not go into the budget. Apparently, what ended up in there, however, it now shows quantity of one, it is in the budget. We're at a loss as to how that could have happened, thus the memorandum. I'm not sure if Bill Sarosky is still here, but we would also like to get copies of the spreadsheets for the consolidated budget as they existed, dated February 24th, February 25th, and February 26th versus now, so that we can do a comparison to see what other line items may have changed.
Well, I'm at a loss here because I don't remember changing anything. This was part of the budget. This was Tom's recommendation, Tom Crow. I put this forward. I did remove some, and we did have others. So, but I hear the motion for the memorandum. I guess would include some of the attachments you're referring to. That's where you would like to see that, Jennifer?
Well, I would like to get that research. That's not part of the motion, but I will be reaching out to Bill Sarosky. I don't see him here.
So the motion is, and I think you, well, I think in terms of the hour, unless anyone of John and Chad have any questions, and Jennifer have any questions about it, I think in the interest of time, I'll call the vote because I feel we already had a chance to review this as a caucus. So, Don, do you have anything you want to add, or no? All those in favor of the motion from Ken signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 4-2. So with that, we have a report from selectmen. The first one being the library basement. Noreen, if you could bring the agenda back to clarify. So the first one's library basement update. I don't know if John or Donna would like to give us an update on where we are with the library basement committee.
We had a meeting a week ago, and one of the things that came up was there was some confusion as to what is currently being stored in the basement. In July, a list was made of people that wanted to store material down there, but we didn't know what the current usage was. So it was agreed that we would go down and make an assessment of what is actually there today, how many square feet is currently being occupied, and once that was done, to talk to the owners of that storage space to find out what their future needs might be. And this comes under the Board of Selectmen's charge of trying to determine the appropriate uses of the library basement. So we want to know where are we today, what are our future needs, and then where do we go from there. So that's basically what we covered in the last meeting, and that's ongoing.
And I would like to just observe, I'm very concerned about what's going on in the basement since the committee began. I don't get down there that often, not as often as, let's say, our fire marshal, but I was there yesterday as part of that energy audit. And the footprint of the Friends of the Library has grown dramatically. It's grown dramatically since when we first started, but it's also grown dramatically, according to the fire marshal, since the committee began. In addition to adding more space and taking away from any future development or any future storage, the original purpose of building that, what we see is they have an ad in the paper asking people to donate even more books. And I would have thought that it was incumbent on all parties, I know we did, to say, while the committee was operating, and trying to come to some understanding and a new approach, I would have thought people would have had the respect to basically hold still with current space and current space allocations. This has been an ongoing problem that every time prior to this committee, we said, well, this is the area for the Friends of the Library. The next thing we know, they've expanded by considerable amount of square footage. And now I see that again. So I would ask that the representatives from the board request to the Friends of the Library that until this is resolved, it's really inappropriate for them to expand their footprint in the basement of the library. And let the committee finish its work, then make concerted decisions and not find out that decisions have been made just by facts on the ground, that they've put in more bookshelves and have taken on more space to put more books down there. Anything else on the library committee? Seeing none, okay, so next is the animal control facility task force.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the task force has already done a huge amount of work. It's been very impressive, and less than a month. As I think I mentioned before, it's split into two committees, one of which they're calling, had been called the immediate needs. They have changed the name for that committee to the short-term needs subcommittee, where they are, have been working with the ACOs to get data on the dogs that we've had to date, as well as obviously the dogs that we have there right now. As I think was mentioned earlier, thanks to the work of the animal control officers, there were 8 additional dogs that went out to the new adopters and new forever families. And that was done on the terms of the animal control officer, not the owner. And I thought that they did an absolutely fabulous job helping to get those into new homes. And the new families report those dogs are doing very well. Also, we have actually not needed to engage a dog trainer. The current training is all being done by the current ACOs. An intern did come in to learn from them with respect to dog training. But again, that training has been incredibly impactful. So the short-term needs subcommittee has been looking to see, you know, what else do we need to do in order to do a sort of patchwork work, at least until there is a long-term resolution. The localization committee has done a huge amount of work as well. We have scheduled and are scheduling visits of the Newtown, Oxford, and Middlebury facilities. We have, the town vet has done a significant amount of work in terms of evaluating the Southbury Training School as a site for the shelter, which we believe appears to be an extremely good choice within Southbury, where we could use existing property and grassy space out there. But the localization committee is engaging in that process. We're coming back together, and we're going to be operating in the timeline that we discussed, as Selectman Ferrer had suggested in our earlier discussion. So there will be preliminary findings by June, with the final report by October. But again, a lot of really hardworking people in this great group.
I have some concerns. I'm sure that there are very hardworking people, but I'm not sure that the Board of Selectmen delegated the authority to manage the dog pound to this task force. I thought we were looking at the needs, the physical space of the task force, not whether or not there should be additional staff or not. That's under the purview of the first selectman.
You're correct. You're correct. I have no idea why you think I said that. There's a short-term needs, it used to be called immediate needs committee.
Yeah, short-term
and
needs.
And then there's
the short-term needs of the physical
correct.
space.
That's
not of how many people, who's working at the dog pound. I think that's
no,
not in
no,
the
the
area.
task force is not making any recommendations on how many people are working.
You really just said there was no need for.
No, that was commentary on how well the dogs are doing there right now, but yet there continue to be short-term.
She gets
Trying to clarify.
The task force is not making any recommendations on this. We're simply stating that these are
So you're
physical
stating
needs.
your opinion that the additional staff is not needed.
I was only commenting on the fact that the current dogs are doing extremely well, and so this is indeed confined to physical needs. If anything, I was reinforcing your point that the recommendations are limited to physical needs.
Okay, I didn't get that impression, but okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on task force? Public Works review update?
Well, I have to tell you where this update is. It's so far it hasn't moved off a dime. I proposed a study of the Public Works, I'm going to say over a month ago, and I was asked then to create a scope of what this study would be. I did develop that scope and presented it to the Board of Selectmen. And then, in addition to that, I assembled a committee of 4 individuals with engineering and backgrounds. Some are known to the town well: Ed Wilson, Don Antela, Jeff Manville, Dave Lasher happens to be my neighbor, he's an engineer. They all happen to be Republicans, so when I brought this, and I didn't pick them that way, I just know these guys. So the question came up, well, would I be interested in having other individuals with perhaps different political affiliations as part of this committee? My answer was absolutely. It was a very simple answer, one easy to remember. And since that time, no one has come forward to volunteer their services. This opportunity is still out there if somebody wants to jump in. It's a fairly extensive project. It's going to take many months to do. We're going to look at capital equipment, materials, maintenance, road maintenance, paving, snow removal. It's going to be broken down into different elements. I'd like to get started on this thing. It was urgent at one time, Donna, but the urgency has, it's important to get it done and done right. And I'm not, just so everybody understands, I'm not going after anybody with this study. It's just to look at how we do things in this town, particularly in road maintenance, road repairs, equipment repairs, and see if we can do it better. That's the main objective to this thing. So I'd like to get it moving, and if, with your permission, with the 4 guys that I have, and if anybody wants to come forward and volunteer, I'd be happy to consider them. And
Ken,
give
I
their
just
commitment.
want to clarify, my comments were not just for political affiliation, but I don't care what they are. What I was saying at the last meeting, and I think I was very clear, is that I think that this should be opened up to the public for us to solicit additional people, regardless of political affiliation, to give, because what I'm opposed to is, or concerned about, is selectmen hand-picking people for a commission or committee. Have we posted this on our website? Have you asked that this be solicited?
I
We did
volunteered
just
to do that for Ken, and I haven't had a chance to do it, but it is on my list.
I'd like to get going, and we can always add people to the committee.
Absolutely.
And I would like to add, because I hope we were in agreement on this, at the Board of Finance meeting 2 weeks ago, as some of you know, Brian Emmerich has done a lot of work on benchmarking various different things.
Brian's been helping.
And so I put Brian and Ken together, because I think it's very important as a first pass to have that comparison to what we do, how we do it, as far as manpower expense compared to other towns. I think it's a really good litmus test to say where are we weaker than others, where possibly we're better than others, and so we have some direction. So
Yeah.
I recommend strongly that as, and we've done that in a lot of other areas, do that benchmarking first, use that to kind of hone your direction and focus, so it's not too spread out. We can get some, quick hits, quick benefits, because we see that relative to other towns of our size, either we're spending too much in a particular area, or we don't have the right set of equipment, or whatever the difference is.
And I don't think that
But I will try to.
the intention was that you not do anything until you have a full complement. You can certainly get started,
Right.
but I think that it would be smart to solicit members of the public, regardless of their.
It's open, it's been, if you go back to our minutes of our meetings, it's been discussed at a number of meetings, so if anybody, anybody that's here tonight,
Reads our
step
minutes.
up. You want to be part of this committee?
No. I was saying, yes, I read the minutes.
So, so, yes, I guess, with Ed's help, we'll
I think
publish the
I would encourage you
opportunity.
to advertise for information.
So we'll just add that to it. I want to get started on this thing,
And I think
and,
you're seeing that, as far as we're concerned,
because I've already done some benchmarking, just so you know, before this.
that share that with us. Okay, with
That's
that.
it.
Yep, gotcha. Any other business to come before the Board of Selectmen? Seeing none, I would like a motion to go into executive session with regard to the 2 items listed there.